Australia, the oldest, most extreme continent on Earth. Nowhere else do you find snakes more venomous, wildlife more bizarre. Over tens of thousands of years, people have adapted to this untamed land. They have endured its extremes and gradually learned to love it. From the rich jungle to the red desert to the snowy mountains. But in this vast island of wild beauty, the crowning jewels are Australia's national parks. The Great Barrier Reef stretches along the northeast coast of Australia for almost 3,000 kilometres. It's the longest and most extensive coral reef system in the world. Next to it is a magnificent tropical rainforest, extending all the way from the beach up to the mountain tops. Here in the Daintree National Park, established in 1981. The park preserves a unique habitat that millions of years ago covered the entire northern half of Australia. But a changing climate caused tropical rainforest to shrink to 1% of the total of Australian land area. Human activity in the modern era has further decimated it. Over 80% of it has been cleared over the last 150 years. Many plants and animals from the early history of the continent now survive only in the Daintree National Park. The Daintree Rainforest is a treasure trove for biologists and nature lovers. The heavy rainfall is a challenge for both people and machinery.
Pete and copy, radio check.
Mechanic Andrew Thompson has his work cut out in this climate. Together with Peter Byrne of the University of Queensland, the two explore the rainforest in a whole new way. By crane.
It just provides that access to, I guess, a relatively unstudied part of the rainforest. Because that in the past, a lot of the rainforest research is concentrated on the ground, just because it's the easiest part to access. But with this, we can go up through the levels, essentially from the ground, right up to the trees, up to the top of the trees, and access all those different zones for all the different types of research.
The crane gives access to a unique world that scientists have only recently been able to explore. At the beginning of each month, Peter and Andrew do a thorough assessment of the condition of the forest.
Early flower on one, and late fruit on one. Yep. And then the other one over there, which is...
The two researchers have numbered every tree in their 1 hectare study area and plotted them on a map.
No. It's mostly finished now. So it's a little spin.
The leaves of the canopy grow so dense that almost no light falls to the ground. On the other hand, the canopy provides shade for those plants that are sensitive to sunlight. Since there is no cooling off season in the tropics, plants can flower at any time.
1 metres, tree number 6057.
Depending on conditions, however, some trees may only flower once every 5 years. They find many surprising species up here, like eagles.
Just looking out now, the baby one. This year was the first time I've seen them nesting. Went up because I have to do my maintenance on the end of the gym, and got to look at the eggs in the nest, and then got to see the 2 little chicks after the painters had left, and I went up just to check out a few things up there again. It was beautiful birds.
true rainforest has an almost completely closed canopy. The Daintree River divides the park's two sections. Cairns, the nearest large town, is 100 kilometres away. Mangrove forests line the banks of the Daintree River Delta. Mangroves are vital to the entire reef ecosystem. Highly salt tolerant, they grow at the interface between land and sea, both on reef islands and on the coast. Once considered muddy wastelands, they are now recognised as vital to a healthy marine environment. They act as filters, preventing nutrients running off farmland, disturbing the delicate balance of the reef and its lagoons. Unlike soil, mud doesn't let roots absorb air, so mangroves have evolved a creative solution. Their roots grow upwards and, like snorkels, allow the plants to breathe. These are trees that survive against all the odds. In addition to being a valuable buffer for the reef, they act as a nursery for many of its fish. Mangrove's dense branches also provide habitat for many birds. The Teresian pigeon commutes 10 kilometres each day to the low Isles to breed. Here, its chicks are safe from the rainforest's prowling snakes and lizards, but they cannot evade all predators. The chick must be guarded around the clock. While one parent keeps watch, the other goes in search of food. Yet another species involved in the life cycle of the Daintree. Prawn farms and luxury holiday resorts are pushing their way into the wet tropics. Local real estate developers describe their projects as improved rainforest. Both the national park and the river are named after Richard Daintree, a geologist who prospected here in the 19th century for deposits of gold and coal. The real wilderness begins north of the Daintree River. There is only one public road through the national park. Covering more than 700 square kilometres, the park is a living link to the planet's distant past. Twelve of the planet's 19 most primitive flowering plant families still grow here, more than anywhere else in the world. The forest is also home to 30 different reptiles. The Boyd's forest dragon feeds on insects. The Daintree supports 20% of all the bird species seen in the whole of Australia, with more than 140 species. This tranquil environment is a popular nursery for a family of Rajah ducks. They seldom move from the water's edge, where they sieve the mud for worms. A forest kingfisher preens between feeding forays. These spectacled flying foxes scramble among the understory, feasting on ripening cluster figs. Many of the rainforest animals help disperse seeds that enable future growth of the forest. Biologists from all over the world come to explore this once inaccessible environment. Peter analyses the samples from the monthly survey. The data is sent to the University of Cairns, which is part of an international rainforest research network. Many species of ants also live in the treetops. The most dominant are green tree ants. They construct nests of leaves bound together with silk, produced by their own larvae. They vigorously defend their colonies and will attack aggressively if disturbed. While the tree ants work cooperatively, spiders work alone. Portia spiders cannibalize other spiders using some clever mimicry. They pluck the strands of the web like a harp, imitating the distress signals of the prey of their intended victims, and wait for a gullible response. With 6 eyes that can scan 360 degrees, the Portia's vision is far superior to that of most other spiders. The majority of all the Earth's insect species live in tropical rainforests. At 60 millimetres long, the rhinoceros beetle is impossible to miss. The males use their horns to push mating rivals off the branches. But this beetle's threatening gestures don't intimidate the small but brave praying mantis. It's believed there could be hundreds of so far undiscovered insect species living in the canopy.
There's been a study here in the past that looked at beetles, where they trapped insects for 4 years, and they captured 30,000 beetles, individual beetles. And that study found that 30% of those beetle species were canopy specialists. So if you're only trapping on the ground for your insects, you're potentially missing 30% of the beetle biodiversity that's actually present in the rainforest. And that's a large proportion.
The floor of a healthy rainforest is almost bare. The canopy is too dense to allow enough light to support the undergrowth. An Australian bush turkey and a musky rat kangaroo scavenge for food in the dim light of the forest floor. The musky rat kangaroo is thought to be the original ancestor of all the kangaroo-like animals that populate Australia today. Plants need light, but since that is only available 40 metres above ground in the forest canopy, plants have evolved many ways to climb up and get it. Vines cling to the tree trunks. Aerial roots strangle host plants. The Daintree is a botanical battlefield. Peter and Andrew have established a nursery in order to study the forest trees' growth rates and habits.
23 millimetres.
143 centimetres.
Initially, it's just because there'll be a difference between pioneer species, which usually occur on the fringe of the forest, and they'll help generate as the younger trees, which take longer to grow because they normally establish themselves in the rainforest and may well have to wait until a big tree falls down, and the right amount of sunlight will give them a chance to grow. So that mixture of trees that we've put in will just help that natural cycle.
When a tree falls, it creates a hole in the canopy. Only then can strong light penetrate to the forest floor. Seedlings have to shoot up quickly before the gap closes again. While it's cooler in the mountains, the coast can suffer from oppressive heat. Low tide exposes the corals of the Great Barrier Reef. Mangrove trees perch on their aerial roots. When the tide falls, the crabs come in to feed. Soldier crabs appear from their burrows. The largest males lead the charge for organic matter, washed in by the latest tide. They quickly filter out the nutrients and leave the residue as thousands of little sandballs. It's rare to see a cassowary on the open beach like this. This shy, flightless bird feels much more comfortable in the forest. Male cassowaries have the job of raising the young, who stay with their fathers for 9 months. No one really knows the purpose of the cassowary's striking bony helmet. But what is certain is the essential role this bird plays in the perpetuation of the rainforest. Cassowaries swallow large fruits whole, then later excrete the seeds. Many of these rare birds are killed by cars. Whether by roadkill or habitat destruction, cassowaries are in danger of extinction. Liz Galley settled on the South Daintree coast many years ago. She couldn't bear to sit idly by while so many cassowaries became casualties of driver carelessness. A jeweller by trade, Liz designed cassowary alert signs to warn motorists. When that did not seem to help, she came up with a better idea.
Hello? Yes.
Her neighbours often find cassowaries in their gardens searching for food. Liz goes to photograph them and then identifies the specific bird and gives each one a name. The aim is to develop a personal bond between the birds and people.
I have a project which has evolved more than it was planned because I do see cassowaries. I started photographing them and studying them, and so I saw the differences in all the birds. They're definitely all different. They're different personalities, and because you know them for as long as they establish a territory or a range that they forage in, then you know them and they know you. As long as there's no dogs or anything that's going to upset them, then you can coexist quite with respect. You can coexist really quite easily.
As Liz learned about their allegedly aggressive behaviour, she discovered that cassowaries only attack when they're cornered. Liz posts details of all sightings on her cassowary website. Her philosophy is that the more people know about these vital birds, the more they will learn to identify with and appreciate them.
You can easily identify the individual birds. When they're younger, it's a little bit more difficult. They take 4 years to get to be an adult, but there are markings on each bird which, even from a young chick, if you have a photograph of them close enough, you can see what bird it is. But as they get older, their wattles, these parts of the bird here, they become quite distinct and individual, and also their casque. It grows in a distinctive manner too. And there's quite a few other things that, if you can't identify it by those, there's other things which you can. Their beaks sometimes are misshapen. They've got different colour, pigment on their legs or something. There's always something that'll tell you what the bird, what bird it is.
On the ship. Yeah, those two.
Her supporters are almost all women. It seems the local men don't see why they should slow down just because of a bird.
The cassowary is important in the rainforest. It's a keystone species, that's what they call it. And a keystone species means if you take that out of the environment, then everything changes. So the trees need the cassowaries and the cassowaries need the trees.
Their claws are formidable weapons, but they only use them as a last resort. Liz calls them the jewels of the rainforest.
The birds are an enormous part of the inspiration of living here. If they weren't here, there would be something missing. Something very big, something very strong, something very real about the place. And you can imagine the rainforest just wouldn't be the same.
The Daintree National Park consists of two separate parts. One section is on the coast, and another surrounds the beautiful and dramatic Mossman Gorge. The mountainous part of the forest is the habitat of the tree kangaroos. This curious species is found only in the northeastern part of Australia and New Guinea. Tree kangaroos are not skilled climbers. The theory is that they only took to the trees relatively recently. They leave the forest floor when threatened and head for the safety of the branches. Margit Cianelli is the Mother Teresa of tree kangaroos. The German-born resident adopts baby kangaroo orphans and teaches them how to climb.
So, mein Kind. Jetzt zeig uns mal, was du kannst. Komm. Hascho. Musst erst wach werden. Oh, du Arme. Guck mal, da haben wir jetzt doch unseren schönen Stamm. Da übst du jetzt ein bisschen. Da übst du jetzt. Schau. Also der Schwanz ist natürlich ungeheuer wichtig, weil das ist so eine Gegengewicht. Dann ist es auch wichtig, solche Sachen habe ich dann gern. Sie kann nämlich an meinem Arm schon bis zu 15 Sekunden nur an ihren Armen hängen. Länger. Jetzt. Ganz, ganz fein machst du das. Ganz fein. Ja, und jetzt? Was gibt es? Oh, Baumkängurus sind eindeutig nicht fürs Klettern geboren. Also wenn man das mit irgendwelchen Affen oder selbst Possums und so Tieren vergleicht. Also das ist, warum die wieder der Baum rauf sind, ist eigentlich schwer zu verstehen.
Cockatoos and king parrots are their daily companions in the treetops. Margit was once a Stuttgart zookeeper. Now she lives here in the forest near the Daintree National Park. Margit does not like to see wild birds in cages. Margit has a spacious house, and she likes to share it with the animals that she cares for. Now that her children are grown, 6-month-old Emily gets all her attention. Margit cares for young animals whose parents are killed, often in road accidents. But despite her careful nurturing, the first tree kangaroo orphans soon died mysteriously. And then she made an important discovery.
Die lecken den Mund der Mutter ab, was meiner Meinung nach die Mutter dazu bringt, dass sie aufstößt und Futter wieder mit hochbringt. Und die schlecken das ab und da sind Bakterien drin, die Giftstoffe neutralisieren. Ich schneide die dann auf und nehme den Mageninhalt da, wo die Speiseröhre im Magen geht. Dann nehme ich dann halbe Teelöffel weg und gebe ihnen das zu fressen. Stinkt natürlich mordsmäßig, da kriegen sie auch keinen Gute-Nacht-Kuss. Und ja.
Now that she's older, Dorothy lives most of the time in a cage outside.
Dorothy ist, seit ich die Emily habe, sehr aggressiv. Nicht nur der Emily gegenüber, sondern auch mir. Also wenn ein junges Weibchen mal 4-, 5-jährig ist, dann ist da ein Riesenkrach zwischen Mutter und Tochter. Und ich nehme an, dass das eben eine ähnliche Situation ist. Dass sie mich als ihre Mutter ansieht und da ich jetzt ein neues Kind habe, nabelt sie sich ab und ich möchte jetzt eigentlich einmal ausprobieren, ob sie mit dem Futter vielleicht sich friedlich stimmen lässt. Müssen wir doch unsere liebe Dorothy erstmal füttern und die mag dich doch nicht. Komm, jetzt, ups, hier geht's rein und da gehst du in den Beutel und der Beutel muss auch weg.
Dorothy had violent tantrums when Emily moved into the house, so Margit had to banish her to the cage. Dorothy is a little standoffish now and no longer affectionate with Margit like she used to be.
Hello, Dorothy. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Why don't you hop up? Come on. Come on. That's my girl. Come on. Come on. Come on, girl. That's a girl. That's a girl. Come on, hop. You hop. Hop on my shoulder. Hop. Come on, hop. Du stellst dich aber auch immer an wie so Prinzessin. Ja.
A grown-up foster child arrives early on Margit's doorstep. Jeffrey is a vigorous male who comes to get the delicious food that Margit prepares, especially for him.
Jeffrey. Ja, wer sitzt denn schon da, ganz ungeduldig? Komm. So ist brav. Halt dich fest. Hast du Hunger?
The ritual is repeated twice a week, and Jeffrey gets a treat.
Yes. Wow. War ich halt nicht gut drauf mit dem Frühstück, hä? Jeffrey, und wo warst du gestern? Da warst du überhaupt unterwegs. Das muss genügen.
They mostly eat leaves and some fruits.
Von allen Tieren, die ich großgezogen habe, und es waren wunderschöne Tiere dabei und so eine Vielfalt, viel Freude. Aber der Jeffrey ist doch mir sehr ans Herz gewachsen. Es macht mir einfach so viel Spaß, dass er sich dieses Revier mit dem Haus hat erkämpfen können. Das war ja vergeben an ein Männchen, das quasi doppelt so groß war wie er. Und er hat sich das erkämpft, weil er auf das gute Essen nicht verzichten wollte. Und er ist so fähig. Er ist jetzt 7 Jahre alt und kommt fast täglich zu Besuch. Und es ist also so eine Freude.
Unlike Dorothy, Jeffrey has no problems with the other inhabitants of the house, where no one dares to challenge his authority.
Gehen wir wieder, okay? Jetzt hat sie auch lang.
Tree kangaroos are solitary animals, and they can be highly aggressive. Turf wars amongst males are frequent and often fatal. Jeffrey's substantial size and power is largely thanks to Margit's special carbohydrate diet. His bulk is a big asset in the daily struggle for survival. Jeffrey was sexually mature at 4.5 years. Now that he's 7 and in his prime, he no doubt has offspring living in the forest. Female tree kangaroos have their first pregnancy at about 2 years. They have a year-round breeding season. Unlike other animals like the Victoria's riflebird, one of Australia's 4 bird of paradise species. These striking birds are famous for their brilliant plumage and their dramatic mating displays. The Daintree National Park is venerated as a national relic of the ancient world. It was listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1988. It is the last witness of a time when tropical rainforests covered the entire northern part of the Australian continent, preserving within its borders not only plants but also animals. The Daintree River Delta is inhabited by some living fossils. They once penetrated far into the interior, but now only live on the coast. They live anywhere where there is water, salt or fresh. Saltwater crocodiles can grow up to 9 metres long. They are direct descendants of the dinosaurs. Crocodiles and feral pigs, however, have only recently shared a common living space. Wild pigs, derived from pioneer domestic stock, are one of the most common and destructive feral pests in Australia. Saltwater crocodiles can go for weeks without eating, and when it's time to eat again, they have plenty of choice in these rich hunting grounds. Any creature that strays unawares into its watery territory is fair game. Then it strikes with incredible power and speed. It usually drags its victim into the water to drown it, then literally shakes it to pieces before swallowing it bit by bit. In the lowland forest parts of the Daintree Park, the humidity during the day often exceeds 90%. This builds up through the afternoon when the clouds gather over the forest. The moisture-laden air cools as it rises, causing rain. This constant rain is why such dense rainforest flourishes here. In a wet year, the Daintree can receive up to 8 metres of rainfall, especially in the summer rainy season. The water that does not seep into the soil evaporates again, forming more clouds, which release their moisture as more rain. This feedback loop gives the Daintree its distinctive wet tropical climate. In the tropics, there are no seasons, and few trees are deciduous. Nevertheless, rainforest trees do shed their leaves regularly. By measuring the rate of leaf fall, rainforest scientists like Peter and Andrew can judge the relative health of a forest. The growth rate of the tree trunks gives a ready measure of how much carbon the leaves have absorbed from the atmosphere, a kind of breath test for the rainforest. A violent tropical storm can topple even giant trees, producing light holes that young plants can immediately exploit in order to thrive.
Just watch out for that stinging tree there.
The gimpy or stinging bush is the reason that Peter and Andrew roam the forest wearing long pants and sleeves, even in the most extreme heat.
Well, this plant here is the gimpy stinger, or the stinging tree, and It essentially has lots of little hairs on its leaves that when you brush through it, it gets onto your skin and injects a bit of a venom, which it hurts a lot. It's essentially like a burn. And if you don't pull out those hairs by waxing, then it can actually refire for months afterwards. So it can be painful over and over again for months. So you actually have to wax the area and pull it out. So that's one of the ones that we definitely try and steer clear of.
The use of converted construction cranes has revolutionised the study of the rainforest. Recently retired by an urban developer, the crane can now be put to a more environmentally friendly use. And this innovation is now employed by forest scientists all over the tropical world. The rainforest canopy has been called the last biological frontier.
4.8.
That's A.
Spanish botanist Maria Torello Reventos is developing a new method of determining the age of a tree without damaging it.
I want to develop a non-destructive method to estimate wood density of the trees, because nowadays you have to take a core of a tree, a sample, so you have to destroy the tree, and the method that we are trying to develop is an ultrasonic method. So yeah, that's the purpose of this research.
Maria's innovation will help the future monitoring of rainforest biomass, which is the largest repository of stored CO2 on Earth. Maria has discovered that the density of the tree trunks is declining. The total amount of stored carbon is thus decreasing.
It's not happy. Cool. 4.8, that's 3.
That's 3? Okay. So we finish this 3.
Peter Byrne confirms this sobering observation.
We had a couple of dry years, so reasonably dry seasons and dry wet seasons, and the rainforest actually stressed and produced carbon dioxide. And that was the first time that's ever been recorded here. So that was quite a big event, because if those sorts of events happen in the future as a result of possible climate change, then the rainforest, instead of acting as a sink for carbon, so storing carbon, it might actually end up producing carbon dioxide, which is not a good thing.
Andrew Thompson is responsible for the maintenance of the crane. Andrew was once a sculptor living in London. Now he enjoys life in the wilderness, growing his own food.
It's a bit of fun, really, just anything to avoid having to go to the shops too often, but there aren't many veggies that you can successfully grow up here unless you're really onto it all the time. It's either too short a growing season or it's too wet. A few more flowers coming, these will redden up pretty soon. A couple of spring onion, the dill for risotto, stuff like that. It's fresh herbs are a good thing to do. They do go quite easy, basil and mint and Vietnamese mints if you like stir fries. So yeah, and a few other friends have got different things in, so yeah, you can always swap a bit here, swap a bit there.
Andrew has lived on the research station for the past 10 years.
I first came to the area on a 1-year work visa from England. I had a friend who owns one of the restaurants locally, but he was living in Cairns at the time. He brought me up here, we did a bit of hitching and camping, and I've always really appreciated natural landscape and the outdoors. I was lucky to be born in Africa and had 10 years there, so for me it was, I'm quite comfortable in a more remote area. I like the lifestyle, I like the privacy and the change in season, the wet and the dry. It's quite amazing.
The beauty and isolation does have a price. Given the rough, wet terrain, a pickup truck is essential, even for small errands. The general store on the coast road is a combination shop, restaurant, rendezvous and post office for the small community.
check the male while I'm here as well.
The research station's bulk supplies are delivered monthly. Peter and Andrew's private passion is the royal and ancient game. Every Tuesday is golf day. They have fashioned an informal course around the research station. The game is played with great seriousness and according to the local rules. And golfing success comes as much by luck as judgment. Club member Digby explains the philosophy.
So it's a bit like taking golf back to its roots, where it used to be played in the rough ground between the beach and the inland. So you'd be playing in the rough and the dunes and the sand scrapes. But that's why it was called a links, because it was the link between the beach and the inland. So it's sort of taking golf back to how it used to be, before the manicurists got into it.
A particular challenge of this course are the blind approaches, where trees completely obstruct lines of sight to the greens.
We are allowed to have your eyes open. What, 4 holes where you can't see the green from the tee? But that's okay, you know where it is.
Everyone loves a challenge.
Fanciful notions like par and handicap play no part here.
That's what you call a shit shot.
One stipulation, however, is enforced. No one is allowed to wear shoes on the green. When it gets too dark for golf, the players move inside for a table tennis tournament. Peter's barbecue evenings are legendary amongst the small rainforest community, where social life is limited. Most of the animals in the Daintree Rainforest are nocturnal, so as to avoid the intense heat of the day. The shy paddymillen keeps a wary eye out for predators. Sugar gliders gather to eat the sweet eucalyptus tree sap. By sunrise, the animals have all gone to their daytime resting places. The research station looks forward to another beautiful day. On days like this, Andrew knows that a working life doesn't get much better. There is nothing more magical than a sunrise over the Daintree National Park. 1/5 of all bird species and more than 1/3 of mammal species on the continent live in this one small patch of Australia. The rainforest is a treasure trove of nature. Numerous species still wait to be discovered. The scientific work of the Rainforest Research Station has really only just begun.